Your parents weren't lying when they said food tasted better back then. 1980s fast food was chemically different from today's versions. The question isn't why we're nostalgic, it's why the entire industry conspired to make everything worse. Remember when a McDonald's burger actually tasted like someone's mom made it in the backyard? Well, buckle up, because we're diving into the era when fast food chains served real food instead of whatever science experiment they're passing off today. Back in the 80s, walking into a McDonald's meant you'd smell actual beef sizzling on the grill, not frozen hockey pucks getting nuked back to life. These burgers were made from fresh ground beef that arrived at the restaurant that morning. The patties had irregular edges and natural char marks because they were hand-formed and cooked to order. Makes sense, right? But here's where it gets really good. Those golden fries that made your mouth water, they were cooked in beef tallow. Pure, glorious beef fat that gave them a flavor so rich and satisfying, you dream about them for weeks. None of this bland vegetable oil nonsense that leaves you wondering why your fries taste like cardboard. The ingredients list back then read like your grandmother's recipe card. Simple, recognizable. No words you needed a chemistry degree to pronounce. A cheeseburger contained beef, cheese, pickles, onions, ketchup, and mustard. Period. Not 37 different preservatives with names longer than a pharmaceutical commercial. And the weird part is, they actually used real cheese, not the processed cheese product that melts into plastic-looking goo. We're talking about honest-to-goodness dairy that added genuine flavor instead of just orange color. Take Wendy's, for example. Their square patties weren't just a marketing gimmick, they were fresh, never-frozen beef that hung over the edges of the bun. Dave Thomas wasn't kidding around when he promised quality. The lettuce was crisp, the tomatoes had actual taste, and the bacon was thick-cut and smoky. Even Burger King's flame-broiled promise meant something real. Those grill marks weren't painted on. They came from actual flames kissing real meat. The Whopper had this smoky char that made your taste buds do a happy dance. Then there's Pizza Hut, which used real mozzarella that stretched for miles when you took a bite. Their pan pizza crust was made fresh daily, not shipped and frozen from some factory 3 states away. Everything tasted homemade because most of it was made in-house using recipes that prioritized flavor over shelf life. These chains understood that great taste kept customers coming back, not fancy marketing campaigns. But taste was just the beginning of what made 80s fast food special. The moment you walked through those doors, you entered a completely different world. Walk into any fast food restaurant today, and what do you see? Gray walls, beige floors, and about as much personality as a dentist's waiting room. But back in the 80s, man, these places looked like they were designed by people who actually enjoyed color. McDonald's had those bright red and yellow seats that practically glowed under the lights. The floors weren't some boring neutral tile. They had patterns, wild geometric designs that made you feel like you were stepping into a party, not just grabbing a burger. And those golden arches weren't just on the sign outside. They were built right into the architecture, creating cozy little dining nooks that felt special. Burger King went all in with their royal theme. Rich browns, deep oranges, and that unmistakable crown logo everywhere you looked. The booths had high backs that made you feel like you were sitting in your own little kingdom. Pretty cheesy? Absolutely. But it worked. Then there's Pizza Hut. Now that was something else entirely. Those red checkered tablecloths, the salad bar with the sneeze guard, and dim lighting that made every meal feel like a celebration. The red-tinted glass lampshades hanging over each booth created this warm, cozy atmosphere that made you want to stay and chat over another slice. Your kids would be begging to go back, not just for the pizza, but for the whole experience. Taco Bell had this Southwest vibe going with terracotta colors and fake adobe walls. They even had murals, actual hand-painted artwork showing desert scenes and cacti. When's the last time you saw original art in a fast food place? But here's what really made these places shine: the outdoor spaces. Many locations had genuine patios with real plants, not plastic ones. Umbrellas provided shade, while families enjoyed their meals in actual fresh air. Some McDonald's even had gardens with flowers and small trees. Makes sense, right? They wanted you to stick around and enjoy yourself. The play areas were legendary too. Elaborate jungle gyms with twisting slides and ball pits that seemed to go on forever. Parents could relax while kids burned off energy in these colorful wonderlands. Every chain had its own distinct personality. You could walk into any restaurant blindfolded and know exactly where you were just by the atmosphere. But the real magic wasn't just in how these places looked, it was in the people who worked there and how they made you feel welcome. Walking into a McDonald's back in 1985 felt like entering your neighbor's kitchen. The teenager behind the counter actually smiled. Not that forced corporate grin we see today, but a real, hey there kind of welcome. These weren't just kids marking time until something better came along. They seemed genuinely happy to be there. And why wouldn't they be? Fast food jobs in the 80s meant something different. You could work your way up from fry cook to manager and actually make a living wage. Some of these places offered real benefits, vacation time, and training programs that led to actual careers. My buddy's dad managed a Burger King for 23 years and bought a house with that job. Try doing that today. But here's what really made the difference. Everything was cooked to order. When you asked for no pickles, they didn't scrape them off a pre-made burger sitting under heat lamps for 2 hours. Nope, they fired up a fresh patty just for you. The whole kitchen operated like a short-order diner, not a food assembly line. Remember how they call out your order number with actual enthusiasm? Number 47, your Big Mac's ready. It felt personal, like they cared whether you got exactly what you wanted. Then there were the birthday parties. McDonald's didn't just rent you a corner booth and wish you luck. They brought out balloons, organized games, and that employee dressed as Ronald McDonald actually seemed to enjoy making kids laugh. The staff treated these events like they mattered, because they did. These parties were community celebrations, not just another transaction. Even the way they handled complaints was different. Mess up your order? They'd remake it immediately and usually throw in a free apple pie or cookies. No manager needed to approve every decision. Employees had the authority to make things right. Well, here's the thing that really gets me. These workers took pride in knowing the menu inside and out. Ask about ingredients or cooking methods, and they give you a detailed answer. They weren't reading from a script or pulling up information on a computer screen. They actually knew their stuff. The whole experience felt like you were dealing with real people, not corporate robots programmed to upsell you on every interaction. Makes sense, right? But all this personal service and quality came at a price point that would blow your mind today. Remember when a $5 bill could feed your entire family? Well, maybe not the entire family, but close enough to make Dad happy when he checked his wallet afterward. Back in the 80s, fast food wasn't just affordable, it was downright cheap. A Big Mac combo cost around $2.50. That's not adjusted for inflation talk either. That was the actual price on the menu board. You could walk into McDonald's with a crumpled $10 bill from your pocket and walk out with enough food to feed 3 people, and still have change for a milkshake. Burger King wasn't playing around either. Their Whopper meals were priced to move, and boy, did they move. $2 got you a flame-grilled burger that actually looked like the picture on the menu. Amazing concept, right? But here's where it gets really wild. Coupons were everywhere. I'm talking newspaper inserts thicker than the sports section. Buy one, get one free deals were so common, you'd feel like a sucker paying full price. Taco Bell handed out coupons like Halloween candy. Pizza Hut mailed them to your house whether you asked or not. The value menus back then weren't filled with mystery meat nuggets either. McDonald's had actual quarter-pound burgers on their value menu. Real beef, real cheese, real value. Not the cardboard-thin patties masquerading as burgers today. And let's talk about portion sizes for a second. A large fry in 1985 could probably feed a small village. The cups were built like buckets. A medium drink back then would be considered a large today, maybe even an extra large. They weren't trying to trick you into buying more by making everything tiny. Pizza Hut's personal pan pizzas were thick enough to use as a stepping stool. Okay, maybe not quite, but you get the idea. They loaded those things up with cheese and toppings like they were feeding their own families. The math was simple back then. Minimum wage wasn't great, but neither were the prices. A teenager working part-time could afford to take their date out for dinner and a movie without having to choose between gas money and food money for the rest of the month. Those days of guilt-free spending are long gone, but something else made these places special beyond just the prices. Each restaurant chain had its own personality, its own secret weapons that you couldn't find anywhere else. Back in the 80s, you knew exactly where you were eating just by tasting the food. Every chain had its own personality baked right into the recipes. McDonald's Big Mac sauce was nothing like Burger King's flame-grilled taste, and that wasn't an accident. Chains actually tried to be different from each other. Crazy concept, right? Take the McDLT. Remember that beast? The hot stayed hot, the cool stayed cool, thanks to that ridiculous two-sided styrofoam container. Sure, it was an environmental nightmare, but man, did it keep your lettuce crisp. You'd open that thing like a treasure chest, revealing perfectly separated ingredients that you assembled yourself. It was like fast food Legos for adults. Then there was Burger King's International Chicken Sandwiches. These weren't your basic chicken patty jobs. We're talking Italian style with marinara sauce or German style with sauerkraut. Each one transported your taste buds to a different continent, or at least to what Americans in the 80s thought other continents tasted like. Pizza Hut didn't just serve pizza back then. They had this whole Italian restaurant vibe going, complete with salad bars and pasta dishes that actually tasted homemade. Walking into one felt like entering a family bistro, not a corporate food factory. But here's where things got really wild: the collectibles. Every few months, chains would team up with movie studios or toy companies to create limited-time treasures. Star Wars glasses from Burger King became family heirlooms. McDonald's gave away everything from Garfield mugs to Muppet puppets. My aunt still has a complete set of those Disney glasses from 1988, and she guards them like crown jewels. Each chain also had secret menu items that regular customers knew about but weren't officially advertised. These weren't internet rumors, they were real recipes that friendly employees would make if you knew what to ask for. It created this insider's club feeling that made you loyal to your favorite spot. The weirdest part? Chains actually competed on creativity, not just price. They'd roll out bizarre experimental items just to see what stuck. Some flopped spectacularly, but others became cult classics that people still reminisce about decades later. All this variety made choosing where to eat feel like a real decision, not just picking the closest drive-thru. Each restaurant offered a completely different experience, which made going out to eat feel more like an adventure than a chore. Speaking of adventures, these places weren't just about grabbing food and leaving. Back in the 80s, fast food wasn't something you grabbed because you were running late. It was an event, a destination, something you looked forward to all week. Pizza Hut was basically Disneyland with breadsticks, those red checkered tablecloths, the salad bar that made you feel fancy, and arcade games that actually worked without eating your quarters. Kids would beg their parents for weeks just to sit in those vinyl booths and spin the Lazy Susan loaded with Parmesan cheese. The jukebox played real hits, not some corporate playlist designed by committee. McDonald's birthday parties? Pure magic. Ronald McDonald himself would show up, or at least someone in a costume that didn't look like it came from a discount Halloween store. You'd get your own special table with balloons, and the birthday kid wore a paper crown like actual royalty. The cake was store-bought, sure, but nobody cared because you were at McDonald's. These places stayed open late, too. After catching a movie at the drive-in or the mall theater, you and your friends would pile into someone's car and hit the nearest fast food joint. It was your hangout spot, your social club. The teenagers working there were just like you, not stressed-out adults juggling 3 jobs. But here's what really made it special. Going out for fast food felt like a treat, not a last resort. Parents would announce, "We're going to Burger King tonight," and kids would actually cheer. Not because they were spoiled, but because it meant something. Quality time together, away from the dinner table arguments about homework and chores. The whole experience moved slower, too. You'd order your food, find a table, and actually sit down to eat it. Crazy concept, right? No rushing back to your car to inhale a lukewarm burger while stuck in traffic. You'd unwrap that burger, admire how it actually looked like the picture on the menu, and savor every bite. Even the drive-thrus had personality. The workers knew regulars by name and would ask about your kids or remember your usual order. The regular today, Mrs. Johnson? It was customer service that came from actually caring, not from following a script written by corporate. Those golden arches and flame-broiled promises meant something back then. They represented quality time, good food, and memories that would last a lifetime. Well, speaking of memories that last, some of our favorite chains didn't make it past the decade, and boy, do we miss them. Remember when you could grab a pup and taco at 2 in the morning after a late movie? Those were the days when fast food chains had personality, and some of our favorites just vanished into thin air. Well, not literally into thin air. That would be quite the magic trick for a restaurant. Pup and Taco ruled the West Coast with their crazy combo of hot dogs and Mexican food. Sounds weird now, right? But back then, nobody questioned getting a chili dog and a bean burrito in the same order. Taco Bell bought them out in the mid-'80s, and poof, another unique chain became corporate history. Then there was Showbiz Pizza Place. Chuck E. Cheese wishes it had half the charm of those animatronic rock bands. The Rock-afire explosion wasn't just entertainment, it was pure 80s magic. Kids would sit mesmerized while mechanical bears and gorillas belted out birthday songs. Sure, the robots looked slightly terrifying, but that was part of the fun. Let's not forget the regional heroes that made road trips exciting. Different parts of the country had their own special chains. White Castle owned the Midwest with those little square sliders. Crystal did the same thing down south, but with their own twist. These weren't cookie-cutter operations. They reflected their communities. And the weird part is how many chains tried bold experiments that would never fly today. Remember when Burger King had a whole international menu? You could order German-style chicken sandwiches or Italian-inspired burgers. McDonald's launched the McDLT, where they kept the hot side hot and the cool side cool in a special container. Pure genius, even if it was an environmental nightmare. Some places stayed open all night long, becoming unofficial community centers for night shift workers, teenagers, and insomniacs. These weren't just restaurants, they were gathering spots where the town's characters would show up after midnight. But why did so many disappear? Simple. Bigger chains gobbled them up or pushed them out. Corporate efficiency killed the quirky local touches that made each place special. The bean counters decided that 300 identical locations were better than 50 unique ones. People still hunt for copycat recipes online, trying to recreate that pup and taco sauce or figure out Showbiz Pizza's secret cheese blend. Facebook groups dedicated to defunct fast food chains have thousands of members sharing memories and photos. The spirit lives on in our collective memory, reminding us that fast food once meant more than quick fuel.